saying that they like my style. Wanna know how I do it? I smile. While you were out there saying hey, hi, hello, I was getting dressed up in shades of yellow.
Hello, welcome to episode 38 of the Lovely Job podcast. I'm Leah Spicer-Pownall. I'm the marketing manager of Miss Bush, and this is...
I'm Emma Marshall. I am the MD of Miss Bush.
How you doing, Emma?
Well, apparently, according to you, I'm glitchy this morning. So
You are glitchy.
I'm glitching, which is going to be irritating for you. And I look terrible. I've basically just rolled out of bed because I've spent the morning so far clipping pictures off the internet. Winter bridesmaids kind of inspired. I don't know why I thought I needed to do that as opposed to get up, put some trainers on and go for a run or something. So
yeah, you've been busy on stories this morning, showing some inspo.
Yeah, I don't know why I was doing that. It's podcast morning, and you have to sort of suddenly, put your head back in the game, don't you? With bridal, mm-hmm. So it's like, ooh, couldn't think. Yes. And then it was interesting yesterday. Obviously, we did. I said to Marshy, we can't do all day drinking because, you've got to go to work and I've got to get up and record the podcast. So we took cool bags with wine in down to the seafront. Marshy bought new picnic chairs. So we took some nice little snacks bits down, a bottle of wine, and Marshy took some beers and we had our own cool bag each. But I managed to get through the whole bottle of wine while watching the bands. So I was like, but even by the time we got home and to put a barbecue on, I'd already had a bottle of wine. So this morning, I definitely was feeling very ropey as I woke up this morning. So,
oopsie. It's easily done when you're sat in the sun, though.
It really is. And it's rosy. And it goes together really well. But yeah, so I felt I was laying in bed processing. A couple of people did come back to my kind of disingenuous marketing thing as well. So apart from I was thinking about fashion, but I'd love to talk about the marketing.
Yeah, but can I just say this episode is going to solely be about winter weddings and fashion for winter weddings. But before we get to it, Emma has something to say.
Well,
Emma's getting her soapbox out.
Yeah, I sort of blame you in a way because I saw this on TikTok, and I don't really go on TikTok very often. I went on TikTok actually to go and look up a model that I heard on the Fashion Neurosis podcast, and I was they were basically saying that they were really funny, and I was like, I don't think you are that funny. Anyway, so the trouble is, of course, the algorithm showed me bridal stuff, and so along with the come and try 100 dresses on with me or things I didn't buy, which was also triggering. We were talking last week about the propaganda we're not falling for. And I saw the behemoth of a bridal shop, Wed to Be, had put out something saying propaganda we're not falling for. And so I just looked at it and I thought, well, what nonsense iteration of this have they got? But basically they just use this as a kind of way of slagging off other kinds of bridal shops, which I actually don't think is very cool. Do you know what I mean? In the same way that, when I was saying a couple of episodes ago, when people were rating bridal shops, I really think it's in their remit to rate bridal shops. And I don't think it's in the remit of an industry of small independently owned businesses. The one gigantic corporately owned business that turns over £25 million a year, I don't think it's very cool. They're taking a pop at independent retailers. So their propaganda that they had to start with first. So they basically, each one of their 5 points is just basically having a go at bridal shops like mine. So number one was paying for your appointment. I mean, I don't know how many times we've been over paying for appointments, why it's essential, how it focuses your mind, how you get privacy, how it doesn't cover the cost of opening the shop, but it does give you a senior stylist and all the advice that you need, because it's not, you even have to make an appointment. The other thing is as well with Wed to Be is you don't have to have an appointment, but you even have to have an appointment to go and buy an IKEA kitchen. Do you know what I mean? You can't just have a herd of people showing up and needing expert advice. You need to have it. You need to have it sort of controlled so that people can get the best of you. And also, as we saw again with the Cool Bride sale, 45 tickets on Eventbrite, maybe about 15 people showed up, which is, they were great. There were great people that did show up, but what I'm saying is if we're having to do, if we sort of use that model during the week, free tickets means only a third of people show up. all bridal shops would be out of business. Do you know, that's,
Yep.
you know, you couldn't staff them, you couldn't open the doors expecting 100% attendance and getting 33% attendance, just not a thing. So they're basically they're saying paying for your appointment. We know why that is. They run a different business model. Fine, you run a different business model, but we all live in the same ecosystem. So please do not kind of use this. The fact that you run a different business model as a stick to beat us with. That's really uncool. Their second point was waiting over 8 months for your dress. Says who?
Mm.
You know, like a standard made to order delivery time is about 8 to 12 weeks. We can go much quicker. And also some of the things that are quite complex that do maybe need an 8-month order time. If people love those dresses, that's fine. That's what they'll be prepared to wait. People will set out the expectations of the order time. So their kind of like blanket waiting over 8 months for your dress is absolutely, it's basically false. It's nonsense. It's not even true. So again, they're like, propaganda we're not falling for. It's like you're putting the propaganda out there, people. That's your propaganda, and you are having a go at independent retail. Their point number 3, not being able to try a dress in your size. Again, literally one of my brand pillars forever has been about size. No, you can't always try a dress in your size because most women are not a size. Most women are a collection of different body parts and proportions, and they're not a size. So telling me that if I went into Wednesday and put on a size 24 dress that did up around my boobs, the rest of it would not fit. So it would not be my size. No. So they are not right on that as well. So that's more propaganda that they are pushing out themselves, which is fake and false. 4 point, spending £2,000 on, in capital letters, just your wedding dress. It's literally like, shall we look at the quality of what they've got? Shall we look at the fabrication? Shall we look at this? It's like, it is the same thing as if one day you want a piece of chicken, and sometimes you might go to a cheapo chicken shop, sometimes you might go to Nando's, sometimes you might go to a pub, sometimes you might have fine dining. It's like, it's not up to these people to either suggest that something's expensive or that somebody can't afford something. It's a matter of personal taste and discretion about what people are going to spend on their wedding dress. So again, point 4 can just get lost.
Yeah, it's like the difference between like Boohoo or like...
they are, a very reasonably priced shop, but that doesn't mean that is, you should take down every other shop. They exist by living in contrast to us. And if they want to live in contrast to us, then they need to emphasize their bullet points of what should be about what the benefits are, not literally having a pop at kind of other types of bridal retailers. They will also be overstocked, and also the comments actually on their TikTok. But actually quite a few people going, well, actually, firstly, there wasn't dresses to try on my size. They were all big sizes. There was no 8s or 10s. There was not this. So actually, even their own propaganda is being taken down by people that have actually visited their shops. And then their point 5 is having a limited entourage. You're not going to tell me they're going to be overjoyed if somebody turned up with 20 people for an appointment. They're not. Do you know what I mean? But it's a security risk. When the only times in our old shop we ever got shoplifted was with mob-handed groups of people. So who come in particularly with a huge group of people, so you can't control them and you haven't got eyes on them. So partly from a like a walk-in shop point of view, if you open your doors and welcome 25 people, 20 people, 15 people with a bride, then you are going to lose control of your shop and that crowd quite quickly. We don't have a limit to how many people want to come in, but we do suggest that more than 4 is probably a lot. Yeah. I actually had somebody request an appointment in August on a bank holiday Sunday, saying she wanted to bring 6 people with her, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. This will be the usual fee as a bride plus 2, and then a bride plus 4 is this fee. So yeah, I was like, of course you can. But when I said it was going to be £125, I haven't heard anything else. And it's like, if you don't want to spend £125, then you don't have to come. You could go to where to be, but you're not going to be looking at the same kind of dresses.
No.
And yeah, so, there is, I just would not,
And
but
it's a
as I say,
space issue as well. Like, word to be, they're all giant. They are massive. But most independent boutiques, they're a lot smaller. Like, they don't take that into account either. Like, you're not just a big warehouse crammed full of stuff.
yeah. So I'm just a bit like that sort of like, I've seen other people try and bullet point their own sales messages out under this stupid trend, but this one, just a barefaced attack on their industry, which is an ecosystem. And I'm absolutely certain that, when there was only, like back in the 80s, when there was only Brides International in Debenhams or Prenuptua, that was all just like off the peg nylon wedding dresses. The lack of choice actually spawned the independent bridal boutique and an artisanal offering. So, you need to have those kind of things to complement and contrast each other. So I haven't slagged them off. I've done a lot of research on their, like, £25 million turnover that they've got. They are very big players in the industry, but they're very different from us. So I just think,
Yes, I wouldn't call it a bridal boutique. Word to be, I think it's a shop. It's a high street shop. I think so. It's completely different. It's just like going into a Zara or something, isn't it?
Also, they also can just say, I've been told that everything is extra. Like, you have to pay for a bag and a hanger and other bits and pieces, and they upsell and missell. So there's quite a lot going on there, which I could actually, which is very well known within the industry. But I've not felt the need to put out on Miss Bush's propaganda we're not falling for, paying for your dress bag. Propaganda. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, it's like
not knowing where your dress has been made or who's made it.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah. Anyway, so I just thought that just annoyed me. So another little annoyance I need to just get off my chest. And this week is just sitting, like, sort of slightly taking photos of the seaside and the sunshine and the band. And suddenly looking on Instagram and seeing somebody that we've worked with recently using our photos, uncredited and uncredited to us, uncredited to the photographer. Not crediting the models. And I'm like, and not just using them, but using them for e-com. So the pictures have got one of the little kind of like shopping bag icon things, so you can actually click on the image and go and buy the dresses, twice over. Just really unbelievably uncool when these people have not shared the imagery properly from the event that they agreed to do. And then also, I was just saying to you, wasn't I, by text message, like some of our models that we hire, if they come through an agency, there is incredibly strict usage rights on their imagery and what that imagery can be used for. And so if we basically, or if we hire a model from, say, like Premier, the contract says that we've got a certain amount of usage for a certain amount of time, and it's web use. So it's not being used in print and it's not being used in e-com or anything like that. So basically, somebody just taking an image and infringing copyright, infringing usage, infringing what they don't know what the model contract is. They didn't ask, no permissions, nothing, just used. I'm like, that I paid for those models, I paid for that look, I paid for everything there. And how very bloody dare you use that as an e-com asset without crediting us or without paying for the image.
Yeah, it just baffles me as well that these are big brands that do these kind of things. Like, they should know better than to do that.
They should know better. They should have, financially contributed to the costs of the event, or they should have credited us afterwards, which is what we'd asked for.
Yeah, and clearly they like the images because they've used them. So it's not that the images were bad. That's why they've not shared them before. They've just not bothered to do it properly.
Yeah, I'm just very cross about that. Very cross indeed.
Yes.
Very cross.
Well, you've got it off your chest now.
I have. Chest as good. Yeah. My ample bosom has been lightened somewhat by getting those two rants off my chest. It's like, we have to be friendly and competitive, and we have to work together and collaborate, and all of those things need to be kind of like, I think, held quite close to people's set of values as far as businesses go.
Yes, I agree.
Soapbox down. Right, fashion content.
So shall we move on to the fun stuff now?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we promised this ages ago, didn't we? We were going to talk about winter weddings and styling.
Yeah, winter, yeah. And it was really interesting. I had a lovely bride order her dress on Saturday, and I'm going to refer quite closely to her, but I won't name her. But it was really quite interesting that she came in, and they were basically came in, her and her people that she brought with her, and we're like, right, we need to order a dress today. We've been everywhere. We're buying one today. I'm like, right, okay. I've looked at your list. I've looked at your venues. We're not even thinking about these two dresses. Basically, she got a list of dresses, and two of which were organza skirts. So for me, I love organza. It's a beautiful fabric. It's light and floaty, and it looks incredible in sunshine and meadows and gardens, and it catches a breeze. And it's a really good silk, which isn't shiny, so there's no sheen level. It's quite matte. We've got several Suzanne Neville dresses that have got it as a skirt, and it's a very pretty, floaty, fluid fabric, but it isn't a winter fabric. It's
No.
absolutely not a winter fabric. So if you're doing a winter wedding, say like November to maybe February, you can hope for a bright, fresh, crisp day, which is chilly, but it's kind of beautiful. It could be autumnal, it could be deep in the winter. But you've got to own the fact that it could be wet, it could be windy, and it just could be a bit miserable. And so an organza fabric in that condition is either it's going to look limp. It's not gonna, if there's a breeze, it's going to be a gale. It's not going to be a light fluttering the dress summer breeze. It's going to be an absolute howler. So I think there are immediately, when I think about it, I was like, right, this particular bride was getting married in a city centre, and I was like, again, it's a country mouse summer fabric. It isn't a winter wedding city fabric. And so for me, it's like, they were like, oh, news. And I actually was just a bit like, how does anybody not know that? Why doesn't, and I was like, oh, maybe I hold, maybe it's just very opinionated of me, but I kind of think organza and flowers, flowery dresses and things like that, I don't want to paraphrase Miranda Priestley, but it's like florals for spring. How original. Do you know what I mean? But it is. But that is the kind of thing. There is a seasonal dressing, and I literally, it's the Americans have this kind of thing that you don't wear white after Labor Day. There's old-fashioned British ways of dressing, like menswear, you don't wear brown shoes in the evening and things like that. And I just think there are fabrics and textures that actually just say winter. So regardless of the shape of the dress, they say winter. So I guess we've got to pick up that kind of thing. So you've got country winter and you've got city winter, basically. I'm going to just leave out winter weddings that just happen to be overseas and are hot, because that's not a whole other podcast. But so basically, what we need to do, and this is why we do the style quiz to start with, is look at the conditions that you're getting married in. So whether that is a city-based one, whether it's a country one, whether it's civil, whether it is religious, and just establish some principles to start with, which is basically, if, for example, you're going to have a two venues. So in the case of this bride, she's got a registry office and then a second venue for a reception. But you could see that with a church. You are going to have to be outside at some point, so warmth matters. If you are getting married, say, in a hotel, and you're just literally, or a venue that's got a getting ready space, and you just have to come downstairs or move from one space to another without having to go outside, you don't have to think about warmth. So you've got two different routes forward. It's like, do you need to think about warmth, or do you not need to think about warmth? And basically, if you need to think about warmth, then, as I say, there's so many incredible formal looks, particularly Jesus Perret do it so well, where there are dresses with opera capes, coats, fitted coat dresses that sit over the dresses, so that you will look completely seasonal and really, really warm, and you won't have to kind of panic so much about whether or not you're going to look slightly frozen and chilly and a bit blue as you walk down the aisle. So I think warmth is one of those things that is important for the multi-site thing. However, if you were going inside somewhere and you don't need to be warm, I still think you need to look seasonal. So I still don't think organza is a great choice for indoors in winter when you're only going to be in a low light situation, because you're going to have to make the most of artificial light. So I think you need luster in the fabrics. I think you need the odd little bit of sparkle, bit of twinkle. You need something that's going to kind of vibe and literally glow in artificial light. Whereas I say tulle, flowery fabrics, organzas, they just like scream summer to me. So I would be thinking more Duchess satins, like heavier brocades, like silk brocades, a little bits of sparkle. I mean, maybe not all through the actual fabrics, but a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of lurex thread through the fabric, a bit of sparkle on the veil. There's going to give you that kind of sense of winter vibes going through there. So I think you've got to kind of like look at your locations and think, am I going to be outside? How am I going to be photographed? And talking of photography, the other thing that obviously we do a lot of our content work with wedding photographers, and it involves a lot of natural light, and they're all very good with the golden lights and shooting outside and shooting in the available light they've got for summer weddings. And the other thing I would also say that you need to do, if the fashion content that you're creating, i.e. your pictures of you in your wedding dress, were important to you, then I think you need to ask to see the photographer's portfolio of flash or low light situations, because that isn't necessarily a given that it looks great. Sometimes it can look overexposed, washed out, and things that you think look sparkly and gorgeous in real life. You need a very, very skillful photographer to be able to capture that on very low, slow settings on the cameras and things like that. So I would be kind of also, as a sidebar, be telling you that as well. Obviously, I illustrated some thoughts about attendance on Instagram this morning. So maybe you could pull together one of your clever little reels.
I'm going to put them as a highlight on our Instagram, so you can actually go back and see them, because they'll disappear in 24 hours. So I'll do a highlight so you can still see them if you're listening to this. Look at Emma's little collages that she's done.
Yeah, and they're really bad. I mean, if Leah had done that, it would be a very elegant mood board. But, I was laying in bed and thinking about it. Because basically, so this is the same bride I'm talking about here. We did the same concept with her. So where we're talking, we changed the fabric from one fabric to another to reflect the season, because one fabric is more lustrous than another. And we also had a leg out stitch going on. So again, we're talking about a shoe that you would use maybe in winter as opposed to summer. So again, winter, what's going to be underfoot is going to be likely to be more damp and dirty. So I would choose something like a gold metallic, so that you've got a shoe that will survive the seasons. It won't matter if you step in a puddle. I mean, I just
you're not
can't
going to get stained satin or suede.
Yeah, can you imagine if you've got a really, really expensive, an expensive kind of shoe, and that you'd you'd actually need, again, someone to sort of get a sort of sedan chair and carry you over the weather. So I think maybe, as I say, a metallic with a really good block heel that's not going to slide on kind of a damp or leafy surface would be my kind of instant kind of styling tip for that. So yeah, I think that's kind of sensible. But then that sort of level of consideration of the season really kind of, I think, goes into the bridal party. And I was again asked by this bride's group. I'm trying really not to give away who they are. So an older member of the group asked me about occasion wear, and there was a bridesmaid there as well. And this is where I was, coming up with my way of styling things. So basically, say we started with a gold metallic shoe, for example. I'm going to put that out there as a thought, that you could then you want to create a sort of a vibe. So it's no secret that most brides wear white or ivory. So gold and ivory are a really good combination. And one of the things that I was looking at this morning was coats. And I was just flicking through ASOS, and there was loads of really beautiful cream boucle coats, fitted coats. And the trouble is ASOS actually photographed them in quite a casual way. So I think you'd actually have to do a bit of a haul and actually get the coats and see how they were. But there was I saw some very beautiful coats on there. And I was just saying, I've always used the Royals at Christmas. They would walk to Sandringham. They've always got a super fantastic coat on, and they could have their pajamas on underneath. You don't know, but they look smart and warm and formal. And I just think for a winter wedding, smart, warm and formal is sensible. And, when we've talked about bridesmaids before, they're there to do a job. They're there to hold bouquets. They're there to pick up trains. They're there to attend to the bride. So I think if they're smart, warm and comfortable, then I think that's, a sort of a great place to be. And also, I was comparing it to, when you go to a really posh hotel and there's always a man in a bowler hat with an umbrella. So if you drive up in a car, they're ready to open the door. They're dressed in a sort of big, heavy Crombie style coat and they're ready to go. They're there to look after you. They've got the brolly at the ready. That's what your attendants need to be doing on your wedding day. So they need not to be in some little...
So that shivering
chiffon slip dress. So I think that they could have, a little chiffon slip dress underneath it. But what I wanted to do was put the thought about what I would wear. And I think the combination of stuff that I've put together would work for a bridesmaid or a mother of the groom, other adult senior woman of import. Because basically, the Royals are reasonably democratic. They all look smart when they walk to Sandringham. They've all got their own vibe of that look. And so I was thinking that was, what I would do for myself, would probably do the thing that they always do in the winter, like we did for the Christmas party. Do you remember when I had a jumper and sequin shorts on?
Yep.
So I would probably, if I was going to be an attendant or a mother there, I would probably have a very long formal coat, so it's lovely and warm, some incredible shoes / boots, and then when I took the coat off, ta-da, there I would be in some sequin hot pants and some cashmere knitwear. So I feel like that is, and I also have got a long, bright emerald green, sequin skirt that I wear to work in the winter, which looks incredible with a shirt. It looks incredible with knitwear. So I kind of think that the idea you can then go from that formal thing, because I still think sequins in church, head to toe sequins, looks a bit off as well. But I think that for the season, I love sparkle. So I do think it's one of those things that you can then, really go to town on what you're wearing underneath. And then you don't have to have a place to go and change. So if you're going, say, from a church to a hotel or a registry office to a restaurant, you simply have to take your coat off and then you're ready to go for round two. And genuinely, for a sustainable option, you will wear a coat again, Exactly. Because most of those ones that I photographed or screenshot from ASOS, they would styling them with jeans. So you could have a really beautiful pale pink coat that looks really sweet and bridal and warm. But you had a really good idea that you messaged me about as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm going to use myself as an example because my parents got married a couple of years ago in February and it was very cold. And I bought a vintage 60s Aquascutum wool coat, pure wool, and it was only £40 from eBay. And it was a deep dark red. I wore it in the church the whole time and it kept me very warm. It was lovely. And I still wear it. I wear it all the time. I have a removable hood that I put on with it to make it a bit more casual. It's a great piece.
Yeah, and I think that's, you've also got those options with, with Jesus Perot with their coat dresses. Maybe we could also put some of those in a little favourite circle. But they've got, coats with trains. They've got, organza coats with sparkle all over them, so that make them quite a wintry look as well. So I do think that it's a really good. They also have their knitwear selection as well, which is perfectly colour tones to match bridal. So there is also the option if you actually want to, as the bride, you don't want to be so covered, and you don't want to also have to deal with a wrap or something They can be really awkward. They look amazing once they're styled, but if you've got to hold on to something and a bouquet and pick up your skirt to step over a puddle, a wrap is going to be annoying. So I actually think that the little mini Angora cardigans that we have from Jesus Perot, which actually, to be fair, if I'm going to use myself as an example, I wore for my wedding, which actually Yeah, it wasn't in midwinter, but it was April, and it was a bright sunny day, but it was only about 13, 14 degrees. So I absolutely did need something. And so I wore like a ballet wrap cardigan from Hazy's Perro, pretty much in all my photos. It's all that you can see. So I do think that those kind of little ideas of keeping warm. It also reminds me, which king was it that was beheaded? Can't remember, but he basically was, but as he was being kind of like pulled through the streets before his beheading, he was like, he had to wear two shirts because basically he said he didn't want the crowd to see him shivering and thinking that he was scared. And
Charles
so,
first.
oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. Again, there's that kind of thing, isn't it? If you're a little bit nervous and then you get a bit cold and you're a bit shivery, the whole thing could get a little bit sort of like physically overwhelming. So I think warmth is a really, really good thing. I also like remember when I was doing my engagement shoot, and I also had a sort of a really big black skirt and a wrap blouse for that, and I absolutely froze to pieces on a beach in the middle of a storm, having the most dramatic photos taken. But then I decided I was going to have some photos taken in like the city centre, so I actually put some jeans under my big skirt and you couldn't see them, and it looked great, and I was toasty and warm. So the other thing I would say about potential winter weddings is like big skirts are actually genuinely very warm, and you could have pretty much
thermals. Yeah,
thermals underneath them. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you had a big skirt like a Hazy Sparrow one with some pockets, you could also get those kind of little skiing hand warmers that you just put in your pockets and you just crack them and they like give off heat, and then you could just have warm hands as well. Yeah, I think it's really good. And also because I just do love a dramatic outdoor photo as well. The other thing, which I mean, we've got dresses that we're selling like this, when actually Ben has just done a Nautier bespoke dress for someone, where we're doing what I would call that sort of geeky 7/8 length skirt, or as it used to be called in the 80s and 90s, a ballerina length skirt. So if you definitely knew you wanted to be walking around outside, potentially think about not going full length, but going for that really beautiful, almost vintage 50s length, ballerina length, so that you don't have to drag a hem in wet and dirt and things like that. So it's just kind of practical solutions to what your to your weather and to your conditions and things like that, which I think is really important. But I also think if you're dressing for warmth, it is really important then to be able to take something off, because we've all done that thing where we're like freezing cold and then you get inside, we'll have one champagne and you're suddenly flushed and boiling. Yeah. So I think also removable elements, and I don't think, I mean, there's so much choice. I don't think I've ever had so many choices of removable elements ever. So if you imagine for a moment that you're in your big 7/8 skirt with your thermal leggings underneath, hand warmers in the pockets, topped with some angora, toasty warm, and all your bridesmaids looking after you, then you can go into your reception, you can take off your thermal leggings. You could even then change into a much more delicate pair of shoes because you're now inside. And then the other thing that we're doing a lot of at the moment, so imagine that big skirted dress, which has got a warm top over, is strapless. We've got quite a few choices from Hazy's Perro and also from Nautier of little kind of sparkly tops that can then go over the dress for that second look,
cardigan
or
comes
second
off,
look inside. Yeah. So we've got one that we've done really, really well with. It's a little Hazy's Perro top, style number 2207. The top is an instant kind of like jazz up for the evening. But there's also some incredible new ones coming in the new Hazy's Perro collection. So talking like little, like in the beginning of Friends, when they're all wearing like polo neck tops, but with short sleeves, that bit, that look. I can't remember who's got it on, maybe Jennifer Aniston. But think of that, but in a sort of sequin. And then, so Hazy's Perro have got a couple of different sparkly tops coming for that. They've also got their very classic sort of racer style. So the neckline of 166, they're doing in a little fitted sequin top as well. We've also got little sequin tops with fringe beading on and quite boxy sequins. So you've got lots of opportunities to kind of take one piece off and put another piece.
Isn't there a blazer coming as well?
Oh, yeah. It's really oversized. I've also bought a really big size one because part of me would love to see that massive oversized satin blazer, which again would be a great bridesmaid, a great winter wedding look, just to be worn boyfriend jacket style over a dress as well, which I think would be super cool.
Very into a big blazer right now.
Yeah. The other thing that we're doing quite a lot at the moment for people for a second look for winter, which I think is again quite camp, is feathers. So not the standard feather stole, but if you think about a feather stole / feather boa, we're actually making sort of second looks and making a sort of collar. So again, if you've got a strapless base, you then like can pop it on like basically an off the shoulder feather, feather. What would I didn't even feather collar? Let's call it a feather collar. And actually, feathers are genuinely actually quite warm. It's why birds can go outside in the winter. I know that sounds a bit of a stupid thing to say, but literally they are actually really warm. So a boa,
like duvets and stuff are made of feathers, aren't they?
yeah, really actually quite warm. So other idiotic kind of pronunciations for me there. So yeah, so the feather second looks I also think are really good. I mean, there was a bit of time when everyone was like doing feather skirts, which again I think are quite camp and quite fabulous. But you know, they do tend to shed, but a little feather top kind of thing is not, that doesn't shed as much. So I feel like that's a good little, but it's the season where you can have fun with things like that.
Yeah.
I also in the thing that I did for Instagram this morning, again would be in the favourites, was looking at colour palettes that weren't too Father Christmassy.
Yes.
So red in itself I do really love, but you'd have to go very careful, and I very much encourage people to stay away from combining red and white at Christmas. Red and white in bouquets together slightly, if it's slightly gives me the ick. It's a bit toadstool. So I don't think it really naturally occurs anywhere that much. So I think red is great, but I would go bold, and I would have more than just roses and with shades of red together and go towards the black red sides of things. But what I thought I'd put in was quite deep, rich, warm colours in the little kind of thoughts that I put together. Which I mean, again, it was just a casual glance on Pinterest to put pink and plum together, which I do think is a very beautiful, rich, black curranty kind of vibe, which I think would be very good for that. But again, it's like mixing your rich colours. But again, so if we take the person where I was suggesting maybe a gold shoe, you can also bring those colours in. I think really cool florists, usually have a really incredible selection of haberdashery as well. So I think if you're trying to bring in metallics into things, I think it's a really useful way of making bouquets look incredibly smart by using really, really beautiful ribbons and haberdashery, lovely silk ribbons to bring those colours in, which are hard to communicate in natural flowers. So rather than getting some like a bit of a dodgy sprayed gold rose or something, you bring a beautiful gold silk lurex into the ribbons. Or if you're wanting to do, black tie, you could bring black silk duchess into the ribbons. Oh,
Just some lovely
yes.
black velvet.
Hang on a minute. Oh, hello.
Oh, guest star.
Susie Sue, the guest star, talking of black velvet.
Oh yeah, let's get Susie Sear on the podcast.
I think she's just going to sit and chew some of my paperwork, actually. It was on the table behind me, so...
Anybody listening, this is Emma's cat. We don't actually have Susie from Susie and the Banshees on the podcast.
I know, more's the pity. But yeah, Susie Sue is here. So I kind of think there's quite a lot of styling and practical things that need to sort of come together with the thoughts about winter weddings, which I kind of think sometimes people haven't really thought through. And even as a sort of a con with a pros and cons list, this bride said to me, "But won't everybody get really hot in a coat?" And I was like, "Nobody makes the men take off like jackets in a wedding, right?" No. She's going to tread on something and turn the computer off in a minute. So I don't think that, as I say, when everyone is talking about considerations of like it being too hot inside, as I say, the boys are going to probably be in a 3-piece suit with a shirt, so pretty warm. So all I'm talking about is affording, your bridesmaid the same warmth, and also, even if you wanted, I also think putting the girls in trouser suits is really lovely. But again, a trouser suit is a very, very difficult thing sometimes to fit and to look good on people. But don't limit yourselves to the fact that under this coat there has to be a dress. There could also be either like smart trousers, or there's something even along the lines of the sort of, plissé pleated, classic cos trousers or izumaki trousers.
Yeah, we've said this before. Don't just limit yourself to it has to be a bridesmaid's dress. It's an outfit.
Yeah. So, and I suppose the last thing that I think we've done quite a lot of the 2415 cape, but we've done lots of iterations of capes, and it was really interesting that we shared a Nautier bride. We were tagged in a thing, tagged in a post this week, a reel, with a cape that was very, very beautiful and very summery looking. So it was light and silk chiffon. The amount of inquiries that created, but we've also got incredible beaded capes, which gives you again another way to dramatically twinkle as you go down the aisle in the winter season.
Yes, well, we shared those veils recently in the Let's Talk About Veils, and there's the AB crystal one, which is incredible in the light, isn't it?
Yes. Hello, baby.
You're being distracted again.
Yeah, I know. Like, if you want to put like even though I look terrible, I've got just a band t-shirt on and I haven't washed my hair yet this morning. The cat, if she makes an appearance, I will allow you to share that on the ground. Yeah, so that's quite overviewy. But I guess if people have got specific questions about specific dresses, or I should probably really summarise, isn't it? So think about warmth, think about the luster of the fabric, think about artificial lights, think about what not looking too typical or too Mother Christmas. Yeah. But you can have real fun at the time of the year because guests will be having fun with what they're wearing too.
Yes. And if you go on our YouTube channel, there's a video that we did a few years ago when Emma talks about adding cardigans and warmth for winter weddings. And it's still really relevant. So if you go and have a look at that, that's a good video.
Also think that two women, one dress thing might be good as well, where Chloe and I are both in that full-length cream coat from Jesus Perot.
That's great for winter, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that's that's particularly a good, and also like that cream coat is, it's probably a couple of quid. But the bridesmaids looks that I was looking at, if you go and buy a coat now for your bridesmaid when it's completely the wrong season,
they're so all cheap. On sale right now, aren't they?
Yeah. There was like wool coats for like 60 quid. So actually the looks and also the sequin skirts were all in the sale. So you could probably put together one of those looks, Zara shoes, and Marks and Spencer's net, sequin skirt, really cool coat, probably for about 200 quid, which I think is
sounds good.
Shopping out of season. Like that doesn't really work with bridal because it's a sort of seasonless activity.
It's all year long.
It's year long. But like for the high street or for the online e-commerce place, it's they still kind of like discount heavily winter stuff in the summer. And I think I looked at a couple of those pencil skirts. I was like, £25, you say? I think I might get one of those and just bank it
shopping
for
for yourself.
I know, literally. I was like, I think I might have a pink coat for like 60 quid. So it was quite an interesting exercise to do. But I really, really encourage people. I think Pinterest has got much more expanded mood board options now, is to really go crazy. I could have done the palettes and the mood boards. I was thinking about it. I could do that in gold and cream. I could do it, and silvers and blues would be really beautiful. Also, like there was some really, really beautiful deep forest green sequin skirts. And I was thinking, that would be nice. And so looking at ways you could put this together, you could also make it look incredibly like rich bitch by just doing a camel coat and a cream underneath it, so that you can keep a sort of colourless kind of concept for your bridesmaids. Whereas I think putting a bridesmaid in ivory in the winter would be an act of outright cruelty. They're going to look peaky winter skin. That's the other thing as well, peaky winter skin. I have had people talking about sunbeds and like spray tans and things, and I'm like, basically no. I always think you've got to dress for your how your skin tone is naturally. But I mean, if you've got a leg split and you've got a naturally like fabulous kind of skin tone that's going to look great year round, getting your leg out, fantastic. Well, my leg will look something like a chili pork chop by the time
I
it
was
gets
going
to
to
winter.
say the same. If I wore a leg split, you wouldn't even see my leg poking out of it. It's so pale.
No, absolutely. And I would be like, there's after September, it's thick black tight season. So I would probably wear some knee boots and a sequin skirt, and then you wouldn't see my legs. But yeah, so I think it's all of those kind of things which, where you're like, am I going to wear tights? Am I needing to be warm? What colour does my skin go? Am I going in a hot hen? Do I need to bother about having a spray tan? All of those things, I think, all come into that winter conversation. It's a season where you can be super toasty and really you don't have to worry about getting your back out and all those other things that require back
being
facials
sweaty.
and things.
I'd much rather be like cold and be able to get cozy than be really hot and sweaty. much nicer in the summer, and you're just like
Yeah. Well, as I say, like winter, like it's a sort of it's like, well, when you got married, you were pregnant, so that was going to keep you warm anyway, wasn't it? It's like a little toaster. I think those are my thoughts, like just to go there and to like really, really embrace that and to kind of there's definitely
we'd love some like specific styling requests. If you message us and you say, I'm getting married in a castle and it's this month and what should I wear, we'll give you some like exact recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is it's very easy to get just very Christmassy for winter, and I think there's a lot of really, really cool options beyond that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, though. If you did want to have a Christmassy wedding, then that's lovely. Like, I do love Christmas.
And also, like, we've got quite a few people getting married on New Year's Eve, which is, I think, genius, because everyone wants something to do.
Yeah.
And it stops everyone hedging about their New Year's Eve plans. They have to come.
And it'll be good. Like, most New Year's Eve plans are just disappointing, but if it's a wedding, it's going to be great.
Yeah. So, but again, I think that, you've got the height of black tie elegance available to you for that as well. Definitely. So, and I do like fancy a man in a Tom Ford suit or a woman. And basically, so I think that's an incredible kind of time to really turn on the absolute glam. But again, if you've got a church element to it first, I would be like, do you need to be like head to toe in sequins walking down the aisle? Or if you do, would it be great if it was like polo net sequins, but then they would be too hot to dance in. Do you know what I mean? Sequins are warm in themselves. But yeah, so I think it's definitely thinking through that. But if you do have a New Year's Eve wedding, everyone's going to dress up. There isn't going to be a single guest in there that's not going to be trying to look their absolute kind of most fabulous. So I definitely think the bride needs to keep that in mind.
Yes, that sounds amazing.
Size of dress being very important. And we also, do you remember that we did that like our 35 anniversary dress that Hazy's Perry did for us, which was high necked and long sleeves and big skirted and just super perfect. Maybe share a picture of Chloe and that to go with this, which was great. And I have had brides wear it, but I've not. And we got tagged in something, but I think basically either the bride I think the photographer must have waited for it to go into a publication, which is great, but it's kind of annoying because you don't get the pictures very quickly. So I don't think we've ever shared it, but it really is a phenomenally good look. But you will need, in a high neck long sleeve like fitted wedding dress with a big skirt, you will need a second look, because I think that you wouldn't really have that much fun on the dance floor in that.
No.
The other thing that you could have that done then is have the high neck long sleeve fitted top made as a separate and the skirt made as a separate, and then you basically take the top off and just switch it out.
Yeah.
So that would be a way of getting around that as well. But yeah, and that's probably something always to bear in mind with all dresses, that they can all be separates if you so choose. Oh, Hazy's Perry dresses could all be separates if you so choose.
Amazing. Can I just add as well before we go, if anyone listened last year to our guest podcast with our real bride Nina, she has now gotten married and her photos are on our grid now.
Yeah, with the kind of like legendary Hazy Sparrow 2509, which is like the most adaptable dress ever in the history of adaptable dresses. So
yeah, that's the one you're wearing in the 2 Women 1 Dress video, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, lovely. I will see you next week.
Okay, see you next Monday. Bye-bye.